Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and today I'm going to do the teacher back to school reading tag. So this was created by Megan's Reading Revelations and I will link her channel down below. Thank you so much for creating this, Megan. There is, I believe, another back to school reading tag where you have to choose lots of different booktubers to teach various traditional school classes. However, Megan created this one for educators who are also booktubers. I am an educator myself. I am a middle school Spanish teacher, and going back to school this year has been interesting. It has been hectic and stressful and exciting and the exact roller coaster that you would imagine going back to school in this current time of pandemic would be. So I'm very grateful that this tag exists so that I can have some more fun with going back to school and it can be as exciting as the beginning of the school year typically is. So the first question asks you to pick a book with a good teacher-student or mentor-mentee relationship. And for this, I have chosen Christy by Catherine Marshall. This is one of my favorite and most inspirational books, and it was one of my mother's favorite books growing up. And it's also one of Megan Hannett's at Megan the Story Girl's favorite books as well. But it's very rare that I find another person who has read Christy and loved it. It is the story of Christy Huddleston, who leaves home in the early 1900s from a rather well-off city to go teach in the rural Smoky Mountains in the North Carolina, Tennessee area, where the people are very poor, living very rustically, and she is now teaching in a one-room schoolhouse. And the book looks at how Christy has to grow up and mature. There's a love triangle, there's her growing in her faith, but one of the biggest moments and best moments for me are her interactions with her variety of students. They are completely unique and extremely interesting and funny and frustrating as most students can be. And that's what I truly love, is that you grow to love all of these children through all of the circumstances, and that Christy does as well. There's one boy in particular who's labeled as trouble. He's much older than everyone else, but he's never progressed much in school, purely because he hasn't been there enough to really grasp the information well. He's always being pulled out to deal with family issues, farm issues, and Christy recognizes this, and she gives him David Copperfield to read. And he is able to pull inspiration from David Copperfield and say, well, he never had nothing neither. And if he could work his way out of his circumstances, then why can't I? And that to me was such a touching moment, and it's what every teacher hopes to do with their lives. The next category is reading and writing. List the last book that you read that was over 400 pages. And this, for me, is Lair of Dreams by Libba Bray, which is 561 pages long. It was absolutely wonderful. I'm not going to summarize it again because I have summarized it enough in this past month, but you can go back and check out my August TBR and my August wrap-up to find out more. The next category is math. List a book that you've read or that you want to read with a number in the title. And this was particularly difficult for me. I didn't expect it to be, but apparently all of the books that are either recent on my TBR pile or my want to read list or on my last read list do not have numbers in them, with the exception of Kim Ji-young, born 1982 by Cho Namju, which is translated from the Korean by Jamie Chang and tells the story of modern sexism in South Korea through the eyes of Kim Ji-young, which was the most popular girl's name for children born in the year 1982. And you follow her through her entire life, very factually, very straightforwardly, with footnotes to actual newspaper articles where similar situations were discussed. And it is truly amazing. It is short, it is to the point, but the way it is structured is absolutely fantastic and so very novel and different, if you'll pardon the pun, and I loved it. Next up is science. List the last science fiction novel that you've read, a science fiction book that you want to read, or a book that contains scientific elements. And for this, I chose The Heavens by Sandra Newman, which I read back in February, which is the story of a young woman who is living her life in 2000s Manhattan, but when she falls asleep, she will fall asleep for long periods of time. I'm talking weeks and months. And during that time, she dreams that she is a Tudor woman living through the plague. Or is it the other way around? And as we dive deeper and deeper into her situation, we begin to realize that the decisions that she makes in one world will affect the future of the other world. I expected it to have more of a historical element, but it was definitely more focused on the time travel and parallel universes element, which made it more science fiction for me. But I didn't really enjoy it, even though it sounds absolutely incredible from the premise. So I was very disappointed. I no longer have it on my shelves, but I'd be interested to hear if you felt similarly or differently about it. Next up is history. List a book that you read or want to read that takes place in the past. And for me, that is the last book that I finished, which is Bellman and Black by Diane Setterfield. This is a novel set during the Victorian period in England, where when he is 10 years old, William Bellman kills a rook. And he and his friends are a little bit unsettled by it after it happens, but then they carry on with their lives and nothing seems to come of it. Until William gets older. And slowly but surely you realize that there are consequences of killing that rook. And it seems as though he is now cursed for the rest of his life. I loved this book. There was less of a fantasy element than I was expecting. It was more magical realism, but oh my goodness, it pulled me in. The writing was absolutely beautiful. It was just as unsettling as it should have been. I really, really loved it. Next is foreign language, a book that you've read or that you want to read that has been translated from a foreign language. And for this, I twisted the category a little bit. I decided to go to my TBR stack and pull out all of the Spanish language books that are there that I haven't actually read yet. So these are Como Agua para Chocolate, or Like Water for Chocolate, by Laura Esquivel, El Poema de Mio Cid, or The Poem of El Cid, which is a medieval Spanish poem about the nobleman Ruy Diaz de Vivar, otherwise known as Mio Cid, who I believe was a cherished knight of Ferdinand and Isabella and may have helped to kick the Moorish rulers out of Spain. I also have Cien Años de Soledad by Gabriel García Márquez, or 100 Years of Solitude. La Celestina by Fernando de Rojas, which is an early modern play, and the classic, the ultimate, El Quijote by Miguel de Cervantes Saavedra, or Don Quixote, in the original Spanish in this wonderful edition edited by the Real Academia Española. And the last category is physical education. List a book that you had to push yourself to finish. And for this, I'm again cheating a little bit and picking two books, which are part of a series. It is the Claudius series by Robert Graves, which are I, Claudius and Claudius the God, which is a fictionalized diary of the Emperor Claudius and his family of ancient Roman emperors. I am deeply intrigued to watch the series from the 70s that starred Derek Jacobi, and it's one of my mother's favorite television series. I loved the opera Agrippina recently. Agrippina was one of Emperor Claudius's wives. So I was really excited to read these this spring. But the way that they are written is just dire. There were some sections that actually flowed like a novel, and those were readable and those were fun. But there were other sections that read like a Roman history book, where he was detailing that, this flank of Germanicus's army went over and did this, and then the 19th foot went over and did this, for pages, and I could not follow it. I am not an expert in military tactics of any sort, and it just got extremely dry and boring. So I did push myself to finish them, and I'm glad that I did, so I can now watch the series, but it's not a set of books that I think I want to own for myself. And that is it. Those are the questions. So I'm not going to tag specific people, but if you are also a student or if you are also an educator and would like to do this tag, I leave it up to you to go forth and do this tag with joy. And let me know in the comments down below if you have read any of these books or if you're curious to know more about them. And yeah, just come and chat with me. I love chatting with you all in the comments. Until next time, everyone, be safe, be well, and happy reading. Bye!